it's not within the scope of this training series to talk you through the formal change control process that initiates a change to your MS project plans. It is assumed the appropriate process is already in place within your respective initiatives, programs and organisations. And again, like I've said in previous videos, look at your planning standards, connect with your group PMO and look at what is required of you and what those formal governance processes are. Now, a baseline within MS Project is essential for tracking progress. The original estimates it contains are permanent reference points against which you can compare the updated task, resource, assignment and cost information, including your recorded action information that you enter into your project plan as that project progresses. Once a plan has been baselined, it is not only part of that contract that you formed with your sponsor, your stakeholders and your delivery team, but it is also a powerful reporting and earned value analysis capability within MS Project. So let's baseline our project. And to do this, I go to the project tab or ribbon, and then here I'm going to select from the drop down set baseline. Now, because there's no baseline set, I've just got baseline here with no dating, and I'm going to set the baseline for the entire project, and I'm going to click OK. Now what you can see now over on the right hand side is the Gantt chart has changed. You've now got 2 bars per task or milestone. Now the below bar is the baseline and the top bar is the current forecast. So what we're going to do is we're going to save this under a different name. So I'm going to do File, Save, and save it as MS Project Training Part 3 version 1 or V1, like so. So I'm going to go File, Save As, select my folder, and then change this to Part 3 V1, like so, and click Save. It's very important to do that before we do anything else. So I've now set the baseline. Let's see what visually this does for us. So we are going to set our start date 2 weeks prior to the 4th of July, which is the 20th of June. So I'm going to go and keep an eye on these bars here and watch what happens and the tracking Gantt view. So I'm going to go to project information and I'm going to change this to the 20th of June, 2 weeks, and click OK. And again, I'm just going to go on the view ribbon and select entire project. And what you can see over on the right hand side now is that the current forecast bars are showing that we're delivering this project 2 weeks earlier. So you can see the current forecast here, including the milestone. But also you can see here an outline here which represents the current baseline on the milestone, so an outline of the milestone, and then you can see the dark bars here which are the current baseline. Now let's look at the project stats and see if we can see any more information within the project stats. So I'm going to go project ribbon, project information, statistics. And what you can see here is that the current start date is 2 weeks earlier, as we've done with the project start date, which means it's going to finish earlier. So you can see the difference between the baseline and the current forecast, like so. You can see fundamentally it's saying it's going to be delivered 10 days earlier, minus 10 days. Then in the duration space, you can see that the duration, as far as the current and the baseline, the duration is exactly the same because we've not changed anything. We've only just moved, we've moved the start date to 2 weeks earlier. but we've not actually changed any tasks or anything like that. We've not changed the duration, so the duration is exactly the same. And the same for the work. We've not changed any of the assignments, we've just made it earlier, so you can see that the work baseline is exactly the same as what our current forecast is. However, when you move over to the cost column, you can see that the current forecast is £11,753.68. On the baseline, it is £11,759.68. So what's changed? The duration is the same, the work's the same. Now, the answer is that if you remember, when we were defining our resources, we let project know that 2 resources have a rate increase effective as of the 1st of August 2022. And specifically, because Fred now completes a small part of this work or his work prior to this rate increase, lowers the overall cost. Now, this is easy for us to say this, and again reiterates the point: keep notes of all things that you are changing within the project, like cost changes, like date constraints that you need to put in there, etc. But there is a piece of very powerful functionality within MS Project that not a lot of people know of, where you can compare 2 project files and see what's different. So let me just close down the stats table, and I'm going to save this project now with the changes that we've made under a different name. So I'm going to file save as MS Project Training Part 3 version 2. So I'm going to go File, Save As, my folder, and I'm going to save it. Just change that V1 to V2 like so, and click Save. Now, what we are going to do is we are going to do the compare projects function within the reporting ribbon. So I'm going to select the reporting ribbon and then going to select compare projects. Now you can see our current project that we've got open, which is this MS Project Training Part 3 version 2. So we want to compare it to Part 3 version 1. So I'm going to click Browse. And there's my version 1 project file, so I'm going to select that and open it. Now, because it's the cost information that we're looking at, I don't want to look at the entry table information, so I'm going to change that to cost on the task table, and I'm going to change it to cost on the resource table. So we're looking at the cost information, and I'm going to click OK. It'll give me this warning message. I'm just going to click OK here. And project will do a comparison. So looking at what you see before us is on the top pane, or the top part of the screen, is our comparison report. The bottom left is our current file, so this is a Part 3 version 2, and then on the right hand side here on the bottom pane you can see the file that we're comparing it to, which is Part 3 version 1. Now if I expand this legend here to the right so you can see that the key, so you can see where you've added tasks in the project in the current file compared to the next file. You can see what exists only in the previous file. You can see where you've changed names, and you can see where things are common. So take a moment to look through that key. So I want to look at the cost information, so I'm going to look at the task information here, and I'm just going to move this to the right so I can see more of the columns and expand these columns here. And if we look down here, we can see the cost difference here. We can see there we've got there's that £6 difference there. We can see it's against the keyboard assembly here. And specifically, I want to see, I can see which task I've got a reduction against. So it's the label. So this, the keyboard housing, and I can see the assembled keyboard here. So if I go to the resource comparison file, I can then see against Fred, it's actually Fred where we've got the reduction against. So that's just a very quick overview of the project comparison report. But I've known people that have taken a week to compare, you know, extremely large project files to their baseline version, and say 6 months down the line, what's changed. As you can see, that has been done in seconds and provides that report where you can look at what's changed, not only costs, you can look at the effort, you can look at what tasks have been added, etc. So that's really powerful. Now you can save this comparison report so you can look at it. I'm not going to do that, so I'm going to close my comparison port here, and then I've got version 1 open here at the moment, so I'm going to select close that file there and do no, I don't want to save that file. And now I've got version 2. I'm now looking at the cost information for my resources, so I'm going to go back to task and the Gantt view, and I've still got the cost information here. So I've got the cost table being displayed here. So I'm going to go to the view, and I'm going to change my table back to the entry table, and there we've got it. We've got our project back to where it was. And again, if I go to the tracking Gantt, I can see the information. So we understand where that minus £6 difference is. It's because of Fred. We understand the reasoning why. I'm happy with that, and then again, through a formal process, I would then rebaseline my project. So I want to go to project ribbon. I'm going to go to set my baseline again from the drop down. As you can see, that's when I last set the baseline. Your data will be different depending when you're following this video. And again, I'm going to select it for the entire project and click OK. Say yes. And now you can see that my project and the baseline and current forecast are now realigned accordingly. And there you go. That's the end of this lesson.